So, I want to tell you a story, and it's the story of how I became a mom. I want to share this story with you because it was a transformative experience for me. It shaped who I am as a woman, who I am as a person, and it provides the context for why I'm running for office, and more specifically, why I'm running for school committee. So, if you'll indulge me a few minutes of your time, I'd love to tell you the story of how I became a mom. It wasn't traditional, it wasn't easy by any stretch of the imagination, and I wouldn't change a thing. So my husband and I met when we were both 15, and we go way back. We dated for a couple of years in high school, we broke up because teenagers, and we get back together freshman year of college. We then moved up to Massachusetts in 2007 for his first job out of grad school, and we get married in January of 2008. In March of 2009, I received a medical diagnosis that basically changed my entire adult life. We weren't trying to get pregnant at the time, and it just so happened that I learned at 26 I was going through menopause and would not be able to have my own children. It was a devastating blow to me emotionally. I felt like a failure, and I felt like a failure before I had even started trying. Like, we weren't even trying to have kids, and yet it wasn't in the cards. After this diagnosis, I went into a very deep depression and had to grieve the loss of a genetic child that I would never get to meet. It was a lot to process at that age and at that point at that early stage of our marriage. To cope, I was like, I gotta work through this somehow. And so I worked through my infertility experience the best way I knew how, which was to write. I love to write, so I started an anonymous infertility blog. And I had this aha moment. People came out of the woodwork and said, I've gone through infertility too. I've had 3 miscarriages. We've been through 2 rounds of IVF that didn't work. And these were people that I hadn't talked to in years, and they came to me and said, thank you for writing about this. And that was the moment when I realized I don't need to write under a pen name, because this is real, this is happening to me, and it's happening to millions of other people, so I'm gonna put my name and my face to my story because it matters. I ended up creating a video called What If? A Portrait of Infertility. I thought, I was gonna make it for like the 30 blog followers I had at the time, and it exploded overnight. And it went viral within the infertility community. It's ranked hundreds of thousands of views, plays, it's been shared and embedded and liked, and it took on a life of its own in a way that I was totally not expecting. It made me realize that there were so many people who could connect with my story on a personal level. And this also happened to be at the same time that I started getting involved with Resolve, the National Infertility Association. It was through Resolve that I learned I had this ability to share a message to get people to listen. And now I had this opportunity to use that platform to help other people like me, to help other infertility patients and hopeful parents. I started getting involved with Resolve's advocacy work. So when I say that I have legislative advocacy experience on behalf of children and families, that is coming from my experience with Resolve. That experience was everything from attending advocacy days at Capitol Hill and on Beacon Hill at the Massachusetts State House, advocating for legislation that would help benefit people to have the families that they wanted to have. So I got involved with advocacy work because it was a way for me to channel all of this kind of pent-up energy that I had, that I wanted so desperately to be a mother and couldn't. And I used to joke at the time, well, if I can't make a baby, I can at least make a difference. And that hasn't changed. That sense of wanting to be in service to help others has not changed. And that my infertility experience allowed me to realize that about myself. So at the time that I was diagnosed with infertility, I was working full-time in higher education. I had this moment where I realized I had so much more of an impact writing this blog and having this whole other life of being an infertility advocate that was like off the clock when I wasn't working at Tufts. I was like, oh, this is what I need to do with my life. And so I left my very cushy 9-to-5 desk job to crack it out on my own as a freelancer. Going freelance was terrifying, but it gave me the freedom to really explore and cultivate my talents and skills and my strengths as a communicator. I was on the board for Resolve New England, which was the regional organization of the National Infertility Association. I was a volunteer. I ran a peer support group. At one point was working for Resolve New England as the director of communications and social media. And I was really proud of that experience because it was so fulfilling to me. The work that I was doing finally aligned with these passions that I had of being a patient layperson advocate and my skills as a writer, as a communicator, as a social media marketer. My infertility experience showed me who I am in my darkest hour of need. And it showed me that I'm a hell of a lot stronger than I thought I was. We were exceptionally lucky and fortunate that we had a very generous, loving friend make a very loving, generous offer to us to be our egg donor. And we were even more fortunate to have our first IVF cycle with our egg donor work. And now we have an almost 6-year-old who just lost his first tooth this week. He's a kindergartner at Stanley, and it's awesome being parents of a kindergartner. Boy, howdy. We always say like, oh, this is such a fun age. Like we say this every year, but no, really, like this is really a fun age. If you had told me exactly 10 years ago, I'd be running for school committee to make a difference for his generation and for every generation of kids that come after him, I would have looked at you like, what are you talking about? Because 10 years ago, I wasn't that person. 10 years ago, all I wanted to be was a mom, and now I am, and it is my duty. It is my responsibility to do everything I can to make this world better for him. This is why I wanted to tell this story, because it speaks to who I am intrinsically as a person, that I am willing to fight for what matters. And it was the infertility experience where I really saw that come to life for me. When I am passionate about something, when I believe in something, I do my homework and I show up. This is why I'm running for school committee, because it's my job as a human being, just as a fellow human being in service to other human beings, to do what I can to leave this world a little better than I found it. And it's not just for him, it's for his kids one day, and their kids, and their kids, and all the kids in this town. That's at the heart of why I'm running for school committee, because I know that I have strengths and talents to bring to the table. I have directly transferable skills from my time going through infertility and being an advocate, not only for myself as a patient, but for other people who are going through the same fight, who wanted nothing more than to be parents just like I did. As a parent on the other side of their infertility experience, I know I still have more to give and to give back. And for me, at this time in my life, that translates to giving back to the community and the people of Swampscott. That's my stake in the game. I've chosen to be very open and very candid about my infertility experience. I choose to be open because I know it opens the doors for other people to share their stories. I've chosen to run for school committee because I know that opens up other people to share their stories of what it's like being a parent in these schools. I'm at the very beginning of my child's public school educational journey, and I think there's lots of valuable lessons and insights that I can learn from other parents at the different levels of schools here in town. And I know the skills and talents that I can bring to the table. I know that they can make a difference because I've seen them make a difference in other aspects of my life and for other people. And that is what I want to bring to the school committee, what I want to bring to Swampscott. That's what drives me. That's what makes me tick. That's what makes me who I am, and why I want to make a difference in this community. Because quite simply, I know I can.